Today on Living With It, we sit down with Shannon Stamper, whose life has been shaped by Prurigo Nodularis, a chronic skin condition that is widely misunderstood and deeply challenging to live with. Shannon's journey began in 1979 during adolescence, a time already fraught with vulnerability. Instead of support, she faced stigma, judgment, and a medical system that often failed to listen. Early treatment attempts brought confusion and trauma rather than relief, while the visible symptoms, constant itch and pain, took both a physical and emotional toll she largely carried alone. Over time, survival turned into adaptation. Shannon learned how to navigate daily life, relationships, and self-worth while living with a condition that never pauses. Acceptance became a hard-earned source of strength. After decades of managing without new treatment, she has now chosen, after 47 years, to re-enter the treatment journey on her own terms. In this conversation, Shannon shares the realities, resilience, and hope that come from finally being heard.
Morning, Shannon. It's nice to
Good
meet you.
morning. Yes, thank you. You too.
So let me start with this. So take us back to the beginning. You've lived with Prurigo Nodularis since 1979. What were your first
Correct.
symptoms, and how did it affect you as a teenager?
Well, it started with, well, the only thing we can piece together is the trigger is I was new to South Carolina, stood in a mound of fire ants, thinking it was a sand pile, completely attacked, just up and down my legs before we got rid of them. Ended up at the fire station because it was a rural area. Paramedics, EpiPen. Then they said take her to the hospital. Got treated for these fire ant burns and figured all would resolve in time, but it didn't. And then it didn't, and then it didn't. And so that's when we started seeing doctors thinking it was this continued allergic reaction. But it was, at this point, we're well into a year, and it's not fire ants anymore. I mean, it didn't feel the same. It didn't look the same as initially. And it kind of progressed from there. My parents were dedicated to trying to help. They were aware that this was weird and nobody understood it. And at that point, it was pretty much my ankles and lower legs. For me, it has crept up my body through the decades to now affecting my face and scalp at times. But yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of doctors traveling, going to different universities, Chicago, North Carolina, Georgia, a lot of that. Um, I'm sorry, I think I may have lost track of your question.
Well, the question was, what were your first symptoms?
Well, a continuation of what we thought were fire ant bites. So sores, and I would have this intense itching. But I mean, I did recover from the burns and everything was resolving, and the sores were healing. But then I would get these new pops, and just a spot here and a spot here and a spot there and a spot there, and more and more and more. So that's when we realized, like, this is not fire ants. This is not. It has been theorized by a rheumatologist and a couple other doctors that could have triggered an autoimmune response, and that probably was the catalyst. But who knows? It could have been coincidental. I'll never know. But
Right.
that's what it was for years on my legs, and then slowly creeping up.
Yeah. So as a teenager,
Mm.
the stigma associated with having skin lesions has got to be really terrible to live with. Mine did not come on until later life, so
Right.
I didn't have that to contend with when I was a teenager. Can you tell me some about what that was like?
Well, in all honesty, the teen years were not so bad. It was my younger adolescent that was horrifying. I probably have more interesting stories, or unique, whatever, stories regarding that. Because in my teen years, at first I went to a school with, first of all, big baggy covering clothes. That was the late 80s. It was just mid to late 80s. It was just popular, so I could cover up. And then I went to a uniform school that required knee highs, long skirts, long sleeve shirts, buttoned shirt, Peter Pan collar, covered. 1,000% covered. Of course, there were weekends and whatnot, but I had gotten pretty good again at just camouflaging. Not body makeup or anything, but my closest to friends understood. And I wouldn't go to beach parties. I wouldn't go to pool parties. I would go with just my closest girlfriends, and they knew, they understood it wasn't contagious. Again, as adults, but the children were relentless. Fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, I would be chased and taunted and called Fleabag and Scabellina. And they would say I had phlebitis. And yeah, a lot of that, kids didn't want to sit next to me. And this was, again, Charleston, South Carolina, very hot, very humid summers. Kids didn't, I mean, you had to wear shorts. School didn't have air conditioning back then. This is 81, 80, 81, 82, 83. There was no air conditioning, so there wasn't a lot of options to cover up. And the most vulnerable spots, my legs, were what showed. And yeah, kids are mean. Kids are really mean.
They certainly are. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so,
So I got a little bit of a break in teen years a bit, and I ended up finishing at boarding school. And my parents had met with the principals and headmaster, and explained, like, we have zero tolerance, zero, for bullying. This is not my skin was the reason they'd sent me there, but to have a inclusive environment of different people and different experiences. And there was letters sent out, and people just kind of left me alone. Some people would just very gently ask, hey, like, those aren't bug bites. Is it just like and it would just go on from there. And I never have minded answering pointed questions if it's genuine curiosity. I don't mind. I would rather someone ask than speculate.
right. So, at what age were you definitively diagnosed with prurigo nodularis?
48, I think. And again, how I say definitively, I was at an allergist appointment for the hives, just a follow-up appointment, and a different doctor walked in, and she goes, oh, she goes, by any chance is the Xolair working on your prurigo? Not, or she said PN. And I said, what's P? I don't know what PN. I didn't know what she was talking about.
Yeah.
And she
Right.
said, all the sores, Prurigo nodularis. And I was just like, what? And she gave me a really brief rundown. She goes, yeah, I'll give you a referral to MUSC Derm, which is Medical University of South Carolina. And I was like, no, like, I have seen 8,000 dermatologists. Like, no, I'm done. In my 30s, I had decided no more prodding, no more punch biopsies, no more scraping, no more pills, creams, potions. I was done. I was done explaining it. I was done hitting brick walls. So I was very reluctant. And then another month passed, and I was there for another injection, and she popped in and said something else. And she's like, I talked to the dermatologist at USC I wanted to refer you to, and she's really interested in meeting you. So I acquiesced and went to the appointment, and it was very cold. Even though it was a lovely young woman, she just kind of took a glance and she was like, yeah, that's Prurigo nodularis. I was like, okay, well, what is it though? And she just basically said, sores that develop in an itch scratch cycle, as so many dermatologists, and a lot of times there's an anxiety based component to it or a mental illness component to it. And I was like, yeah, I know, I get it. And she just kind of walked out. She prescribed the light therapy and kind of walked out. And I'm getting dressed, and I'm like, this just seemed so easy to these two doctors. Like, I'm 48 years old. So I asked that she come back in. I said, is this brand new? did they just discover this? Like, I don't know, the last 5 years? She goes, no, it's forever. And I just started weeping. Just, it was frustration, but grief,
So the
thinking,
answer was there the whole
all
time,
my life,
and they were just hiding.
someone knew. And doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor, no one ever said those two words. No one suggested that. So it was really upsetting, but I did the light therapy and that was great and I got a lot of progress, but it didn't work with work schedule. It just wasn't sustainable. And that's when I kind of gave up again. And then a new allergist suggested we just kind of talk. He was like, I know it's not allergy, but I'm super comfortable with him and we're kind of personal friends. And so I felt comfortable talking to him and showing him. And he said, well, Dupixent was just approved for it. And he goes, I can prescribe Dupixent. It's for asthma and a lot of other things too. And like, okay, let's give it a whirl. And so that's what happened.
Hmm. So it
So
took quite,
definitive? Yeah, that is as definitive as it got.
yeah. So it took a while for the medical community to regain your trust.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say 10 years or longer for sure. I mean, I trust it kind of now. I saw this new dermatologist for unrelated to, I had a weird freckle, that kind. I was like, okay, for that, I'll go. I'll go see a dermatologist. But
Right.
my GP had mentioned in the referral that I had the hives, rash, undiagnosed skin condition because I just wasn't convinced, even though two doctors at this point had said I had it. Anything I researched, any groups I joined, was all these nodes, the just very unfortunate looking skin that actually mine didn't seem that bad to me. But so I just wasn't entirely convinced. So I brought it up at this recent dermatology appointment. And he, like the other two, were like, oh, yeah, absolutely, that's what it is, with all the confidence in the world. And he immediately started talking about anxiety and mental health. And it was just like, I tuned out at that point. I do have anxiety. I do have, deal with mental health issues. I cope and I deal very well. But to me, that's a throwaway. Like if there's a physical treatment, a physiological order, we don't necessarily have to just toss aside any anxieties and that may be contributing factors to it. I feel brushed aside.
Right. Um, so as you moved into adulthood,
Mhm.
what coping strategies did you develop to help you navigate daily life, work, and relationships while living with Prurigo Nodularis, which is a visible
Mhm.
condition?
Right. Um, I think I just had a very good backbone, thankfully. I had a lot of confidence in myself. I was blessed that in my teen years, some too, I did some modeling, but of course it was like full length skirts or long sleeve shirts. But that was a big confidence booster. I was getting positive attention, but not for my body. And so that going through the bullying made me stronger. Adversity, that's what it does. And then getting some positive validation and affirmation that no, you're an attractive person. And it was as a person, not just my skin. Less people were just looking at it. And again, I was covering. I was just always covering up, which is fine. And I'm comfortable that way. But with as adulthood, there would be times I would want to wear a sundress or this or that, and there's body makeup, and I would apply that. Um, Relationships, I got really lucky. I don't know if I just met the right guys or it just was never too problematic. It would come up on occasion, like, well, why don't you get some sun or let's go to the ocean. I hate the ocean. I don't want to go to the beach. Well, no, but it'll do you good. And it was well intended, the times that I was at, parties and all the people, all the suggestions. Have you thought about, have you tried, have you considered? Yeah, I have.
You
I,
considered
I'm,
all those things.
yeah, I'm 45 years old. I've been dealing with this for a very long. Yes, yeah, I saw. Yeah. And then the inevitably, well, what about just not scratching?
That's easier
If
said
you
than
had
done.
this, you would get it. Like not,
No,
and I've cut my fingernails down to the nub, and you find something else to scratch with.
right.
So,
With this, or really with any chronic condition that most people have,
mhm.
I think that it seems to be the go-to for people to just say, well, you should do this or you should do that, or
Yeah,
have you considered this or have you considered that? And what they don't understand is that, yes, you have considered all of these things
right.
and you have tried many of these things and have
Hmm.
found them to be ineffective. It's one of those situations where you have to walk a mile in someone's shoes before you really
Right.
understand what they're going through. And you know, I think that the the conditions that are visible, such as PN,
Hmm.
um, those can really harm your social life.
Hmm.
There's a lot of stigma, and that becomes visual.
Right.
Whereas if you have something like fibromyalgia or trigeminal neuralgia, where you know it, but other people can't see it,
Right.
that is not a higher level of
No,
problem,
I
but a different type of problem.
significantly different, and I would venture a guess if it were worse in a lot of ways because it's not obvious. It doesn't start a conversation. Nobody knows you're suffering with fibromyalgia or tri. I want to say it right. Trio what? Myalgia?
Trigeminal neuralgia,
Trigeminal. And so it doesn't just show. And then all of a sudden, you're in pain or you're too tired or this or that. And people think you're pulling away. And it's not that. It's, the devil does. The devil, it's,
right?
it's, it's not a lesser of two evil type things. It's just two sides of the same coin. One, like you
Exactly.
said, one seen, one not seen. And
Yes, and
dealing with
approached
it,
differently by society.
right. And, you know, I just, I keep falling back on I just got stronger, but also I just started dealing with being insulted or being like I've been refused pedicures before because the person didn't want to touch my legs. When I was wedding dress shopping as a 25-year-old, there were a couple salons that would not allow me to try on the gowns. They had staff do it. I would select 3 or 4 gowns.
Yeah. So
So I
that's
hired
one
a
of the,
seamstress and had one custom made.
there you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
See, I
That's
work
what
around. That's the thing. Like you can't, we talk about
that's
navigating, and a lot of the navigation is finding the workarounds, finding
right.
the ways to go through day to day, finding the way to go to work, find a job in which you can dress where you're comfortable as well as emotionally comfortable. Like I'm not feeling judged and covered and
Sure.
things judged for being covered. Um, so that for me, I think is a lot of it is kind of staying one step ahead and being prepared and anticipating the judgment, the questions, the looks and whatnot. And I will preemptively strike at times. There sometimes I'm like, oh, it's bug bites, whatever. It just if I'm not going to be in any type of invested relationship, if it's just somebody at the market, it's bug bites. If it's a colleague, I might say. If it's somebody at a social gathering, I might just blow them away with a bunch of medical jargon. Oh, urticarial dermatillomania, pruritus idiopathic. And they're just
Right.
like, oh, okay. Oh, thanks. Let me go get a drink. They're just like they bit off more than they could chew. So there's a lot of different ways I think people can. still go forth and do their life. Some of it is just based on your own confidence. And I've been in therapy for a very long time for a variety of things, but since I was 12, and I've done CBT and DBT and EMDR, all specifically addressing this condition as well. And so I think that helps give me a lot of the coping mechanisms that are there and the strength, and to not internalize it, because as a child I did. When the doctor was like, "Oh, that's nasty. That's angry." And they were addressing, give them the benefit of the doubt, the skin. The sore was angry looking. The flesh was nasty. But when you're 12, I'm nasty. I'm ugly. I'm angry. I'm gross. And but you just learn to kind of shed that stuff and
Right.
not let it hold you down. And I think having dealt with it so long, that gives me a little bit more of an advantage than somebody who is 40 or 50 years old. And then all of a sudden, but it happens. But again, we become a little bit invisible as we age, or at least women do. And that's another advantage now into my mid 50s, that people just aren't looking as much.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I was going to ask you about when you reached adulthood.
Mhm.
Um, you gained more acceptance, and you found that to be empowering. And
Mhm.
so, what did the acceptance look like to you, and how did it
Um,
change the quality of your life?
yeah, I think what it looked like more than anything else is it just wasn't part of the conversation. It wasn't the elephant in the room. People just, we'd go to dinner, be at a dinner party, or when I was brave enough to be on the boat, of course, wearing a sarong and maybe a little light sheer cover, and nobody say anything. But then we go and get in the water and they see it. They have to see it. But they're adults. They're in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. They know better than to be like, ew, most of
Right.
them at least. Like,
Yeah. A
you,
little
as
more
an adult, you
self-control.
learn self-restraint and not to
Yeah.
hurt people's feelings and not to ask questions that aren't your business. And, I had a lot of friends that were in the medical field, and there was never any, again, unless it was probative or curative type questions from their perspective. As a pharmacist, one's like, "So I bet you've done the this, the this." I was like, "Yep." She goes, "No
Right.
help either." Right. So that could be just like a nice off the cuff conversation while we're sitting on the boat drinking margaritas.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think a lot of it in adulthood is the onus of that shift is somewhat on the other person, because they've grown, they've become more developed, more culturally aware, and less judgmental.
Well, I think they're able to put themselves, in your shoes a little bit,
Mhm.
and see how they would feel
I
if
would hope, yeah,
things were reversed.
yeah. I mean, as we age, we all develop scars or some issue or some emotional distress and chronic illnesses, as you mentioned. It can be, as I name, not that it's not important, but high blood pressure. And
Sure.
an individual can get like, "I just can't get a medication to work," or "I can't find a cardiologist that I click with," or "Oh God, I'm so tired of this lightheadedness or headaches." And so everybody's kind of dealing with something, at least, if not multiple issues, again, in adulthood. And very often you can, like, if I do get a weird question or an askew glance, you can be like, "Well, what conditions are you living with? Do you have diabetes? Do you have liver disease? Do you have whatnot?" And then it reframes the conversation very quickly. Then this, as you
Right.
mentioned earlier, this is a condition you can see.
Sure.
I
Okay.
can't see your blood pressure.
Right. Right. Shannon, we're going to take a quick little break here,
Okay,
and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion of Prurigo Nodularis. Okay.
great. Super.
So
Thanks.
we'll be right back.
Living with a chronic health condition isn't rare, it's the norm. 6 in 10 Americans live with at least one chronic illness, and 4 in 10 live with 2 or more. Living with it. Practical coping strategies for chronic health conditions cuts through the noise with clear, usable guidance. No cliches, no false promises. This book helps you manage daily symptoms, reduce stress, communicate better with doctors and family, and regain a sense of control over your life. If you're tired of just getting by, it's time to learn how to live well. With it.
Well, welcome back. We're here with Shannon Stamper, and we're discussing Prurigo Nodularis. And Shannon, let me ask you this: living with a chronic condition like this for 47 years takes a bit of a toll. What have been your hardest long-term challenges, physically, emotionally, and socially?
That's that's hard. Okay, let me take them one by one. Physically was the first you asked, physically,
Yes,
emotionally, and
physically.
mentally. Physically, it can be painful. It's not just the itch because, well, but understanding that I caused my own pain from picking and digging and
Right,
picking and digging,
right,
and even showering can be a significant challenge, especially with a lot of, okay, this is the stuff like I don't usually ever talk about. With a lot of freshly picked sores, the stinging, and it doesn't matter if you
right,
take a cool shower or a warm shower or a hot shower. Just this last week, and I don't have a lot going on, but it just, a lot of time showering just puts my skin on fire for about 30 minutes. I don't know, no clue as to why. Don't have to have a lot of it. It just is miserable. Maybe the toweling off, maybe. I mean, I was advised once as a as an adult in my, don't take more than one shower a week. Don't use soaps or use Hibiclens and all that. So I mean, I've been down those roads too. Maybe you're allergic to water, the chemicals in the city water. I mean, which kind of is not
Well,
crazy.
there's some potential there, but
Yeah, but the pain, which of
you
course is,
haven't been able to correlate that
no,
with
no.
shower
I've
schedule
lived
and
other places, and
right, right,
yeah, so it's not that. The picking, this just, it's a big deal, and not everybody is a picker. I think a lot of people with skin conditions are. I think there's this level of, if I can't feel the scab, if I can't
right,
if I can't see it because I'm just sitting on the couch or laying, I'm propped up in bed watching TV. Of course, I don't see it necessarily. But if I just have just a regular standard itch and then I feel something, like, and then it's smooth, it may have bled and it's done bleeding, but it's smooth and it's gone. In my mind, it's gone,
right. Sure.
which is kind of a little game, but it's not a very healthy game to play.
No, but that does
Mentally,
make
I'm not
sense.
stressing.
It does make sense because then your perception of it is altered.
Right. And it's more of a positive perception. And it's the worst thing. I mean, that just contributes and contributes to the cycle. But, and then for those people that say just don't pick, it itches. And of course, scabs start to itch more as they heal. So you have that on top of it. So physically, being at work, not being able to, or just like rubbing, I'll do a lot of rubbing.
Right, right.
Sometimes it looks like I have a tick. I'm just, if I
Yeah.
just move enough,
Yes,
it'll kind of make the
I know
muscles. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I picked that trick up after I developed hives in 2018. Just move your muscles a lot. Um, Emotionally, again, you just kind of get, no pun intended, thick skin. You just get thick skin. And that comes with time. And for somebody that's had this for 5 years or 10 years, I don't have a lot of words of advice except maybe try to dig into your own life experiences that have thickened you and sealed you against things. But having dealt with it for so long, it's just, yeah, there's this level of acceptance. I just have this thing and it's just part of me. And it doesn't affect my mind. It doesn't affect my personality. I'm able to work and pay my bills and have a decent life. So, like, overall, let's not get bogged down in the details. And it's kind of a big detail,
Sure.
having these I mean, like going to a hotel. If I'm on a pick fest, I would hate to be that maid, and that is horrifying for me, but I don't know that person. I'm going to be checked out before they see it.
Right. Right. Um,
Since taking the Dupixent, like I went to Chicago recently and I realized I had no picking, no issues. That was like, I was so excited, I almost jumped up and down. And when I was telling my doctor, my allergist friend about it, I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what, I didn't do anything. That was really fun. It was exciting. It was just a little personal victory. Um, did I get all that? Anxiety is big, it creates anxiety. But again, being comfortable in your own skin when it's flawed is not easy. And I realize that. But when you're coping with a lot of things in life, and I think everybody does, everybody has their own things. Um, I would say lean on those experiences, lean on the knowledge and the skill sets you've developed to deal with other challenges of life and apply it here, because that's what's helped me a lot. Reframing conversation, reframing perspectives, moving conversations, going around the obstacle. If you can't get through the mountain, go over the mountain and
right.
kind of deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Adapt and overcome. That's what you have to
Yeah,
do.
right.
Yes,
And plush
exactly.
fleece blankets have made a huge difference in my life. Now that they're so popular, the like stuffed animal type fleece
Yeah.
blankets. I don't know if you're familiar.
What is it
I've got
again?
them. Hold on.
Okay.
It's like this fleecy, minky
Oh,
type
sure. Yeah, real
blanket, and
soft.
they're so popular now, and you can get them anywhere. I have probably 12 or 15, which sounds crazy, but if I do start getting itchy, because sometimes just at the end of the day, my clothes, I feel like I'm wearing whiskers. Like there's just all these little
Sure.
digs, just
It's
digs. And
pokey.
yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll think, is their hair, I have long hair, not long, but I chef. You don't have that problem.
No, I don't have that problem.
No, you don't have that problem. But, I'll change sweatshirts or I'll, put on a different set of pajamas and it's still there. But I wrap up in this, painless, itchless. Nothing is irritating. There's no pilling on it. There's no texture except soft. I sleep on top of one. I sleep under one. That I'm like encased in this, and that has made a huge difference at night. So that is that is a hard recommendation. Buy these. They're like $12 at Target. They're not
Just
expensive.
just create yourself a cocoon.
Yes. It, yeah, and that sounds good. But I've made it, I've got them like on the couch as like a cover, and the lazy boy as a cover, and in bed, and so it's not so obvious to somebody that's coming over visiting. It's just, she has a Afghan on the furniture. But for me, when I sit down, I can comfortably sit down in just shorts and a t-shirt when it's hot and
Right.
be comfortable. And
Right.
they don't make you hot for some reason. And again, I live in Satan's dwelling, Charleston, South Carolina. It's hot, it's humid, it's miserable, but they don't make you hot. They keep you warm in the winter, but they don't make you hot in the summer. I can't recommend these strongly enough.
Very good. So, um, what was the other socially? What?
Um, well, covering up. I mean, I know I've said that redundantly so much as we've spoken, but that's the key. And for those that say, well, I shouldn't have to cover up, absolutely you shouldn't have to cover up.
No.
But if it makes it easier and you're less self-conscious and less in your own head, which that's, I guess, not, I'm not going to speak to somebody else, although this is supposed to be an informative podcast. For me, when I wasn't thinking about my skin, wasn't thinking about how I looked, wasn't thinking about scratching, just because you're covered and you do have an innate awareness, like, I can't pick at myself right now. There's something in the brain, I think, after years and years and decades for me, it just kind of turns off. As soon as I get in the car, it's like
Right.
all that was held in. I man, all those people that say, well, just don't scratch. And you get so angry. But at some point, like I said, the switch happens and you just don't. You might itch a little. Again, nobody looks at somebody just scratching a little,
Yeah.
but you're not crazy about it. So socially, I just, as an adult, I just didn't really have as many issues. As a child, as I mentioned, I mean, that was pretty rough. There was a lot of things I didn't do, couldn't do, wouldn't do. I don't think there's too much as an adult outside of what I've already mentioned. Like, I'm not going to put on a bathing suit at a pool party. I'm not going to go to the beach gathering. And if I do, I'm going to wear long linen pants, a breezy shirt. Like, I'm just not like,
Sure. Yeah.
so there is some level of avoidance or the cover up factor being brought
Right.
into it. And
Right.
if it's simply something too hot, like I remember several years ago, having to go to a company sponsored baseball game thing where they got, the suite and everything. And it was going to be hot. It was going to be really, really hot. So I got brave and I wore this sundress, but I was covered in body makeup, which just made me 1,000 times hotter. My skin could not breathe. As I
Right.
was sweating, it was like pasty. It was awful. It was so awful. I just left. I mean, damned if I do, damned if I don't.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, what misconceptions do people, including medical professionals, still have about prurigo nodularis that you wish they understood better?
That I don't know if I can answer exceptionally well because I've only dealt with 3 doctors, one just a little, after knowing what Prurigo nodularis is. My allergist was familiar with it. He said it's not really my wheelhouse, but the one who started me on Dupixent, he's easy peasy about it. But the medical professionals that either don't know about it, like we've said, are dismissive or misdiagnose or just don't diagnose. I can't tell you the number of times I've just left without a diagnosis and after biopsies and after everything else. Nothing. I mean, we just don't know. It's idiopathic. So I
I
think the doctors that I
love to
have
use
dealt,
that word,
yeah, yeah, it's
which
easy to
means
use.
it's not
Of unknown
idiopathic.
origin.
You don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
right. Um, the 3 doctors that I had, dermatologists that I've dealt with, I think I wish they took a little bit more time to educate and talk about the origins and maybe like we're doing today, like how did it start for you? What or where are your struggles? To understand, to offer treatment, let's understand where your struggles are. Some people, it's strictly the itch, and that maybe they're great about not picking or scratching very much. Other people, let's figure out the scratch part. Let's deal with that therapeutically or something. But for a practitioner to be more compassionate, not immediately dismiss because somebody has anxiety or chalk it up to, well, you're just going to have to deal with your anxiety first. Well, no shit. I'm dealing with it. You can cut that out. I'm dealing with that. I take my meds. Thank you. And it's a lot better than it could be. But compassion. Don't. Doctors are busy. Doctors are very, very busy. They're overbooked. They're overworked. They're understaffed. They're overtasked these days. So I get they can't spend 35 minutes with each patient. But I don't know. somehow do better. I work in the medical field, but I'm not a medical professional, so I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah. Um, I've spoken with several people with various chronic illnesses. And one thing that always seems to be a recurring theme with every one of them is self-advocacy. You
Yeah.
have to advocate for yourself because all too often the medical community is not going to advocate for you unless you advocate for yourself. Would
Hmm.
you find that that is the case with you and this condition?
Mm, yes and no. No, but I was trying for years to advocate for myself, seeking care and saying, well, what about this or what about that? Or doing some research. This is pre-internet days now. So research was a little more challenging, or early days of internet for a period. You would try, but if the doctor can't figure it out, they don't want to be told by the patient what it could or might or may be and how to treat XYZ. Because I think they feel challenged, but at the same time, um, we were, I can tell you how they're bad. What was the flip side of that?
Oh, um,
You said
well, I was talking about
advocacy. I'm
self-advocacy.
sorry. Edit
Yeah.
all that out. Advocacy. I started advocating for myself. Again, I stopped. Let me be clear. I advocated for myself to no avail for a very, very long time. Part of the reason I just gave up in my 30s and said, self-acceptance, I'm going to live with this. I'm going to deal with it. It is what it is. Well, now we're back on that train again. And I'm happy with it, and I have become very lucky that I do have a relationship with this particular allergist that helps, and he advocates for me in regards to the medications, the Dupixent. I used to be on Xolair, this other one for hives, and it advocates hard for me, and it gets creative with the coverage and whatnot at times. There was a time we were struggling with something. He's like, I can just give you samples. I'll just give you samples. He's like, we get millions of them. But I realized that's a unique situation. That may be exclusive to me, or at least other patients of his. So I should say it's a unique condition of his. He's so compassionate, kind, down to earth. But I'm so new to the world. I'm not new to the experience. I'm new to the defined parameters of the world. So I have not as much insight as one would think for having dealt with it for 47 years.
Right. Right. So, for the benefit of the people that are out there that are listening,
Hmm.
who have also experienced getting samples from their doctor, it's nice to get samples, but they're not reliable. Sometimes they get samples and sometimes they don't. And if you're on a
Yeah.
medication and you find that you need that medication, don't rely on samples from your physician.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should rely on it. For in the scenario I mentioned, he was like, worst case, this is what we'll do.
Right.
If we can't get it the traditional ways.
The
It
reason that I
wasn't
said
like
that,
breaking the system. I mean, he's allowed to do that. That's why drug reps give them the
right. Well, the
samples.
reason that I said that is because you do find people who will say, "Well, I can just go to my doctor and get samples." Well, you
Oh,
can't
no,
always
I don't
go to
think
your
that should be your
doctor.
primary avenue of accessing
Right.
medication. No,
Right.
I agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
Don't
And I'm
rely
sorry
on.
if what I said came off
No,
like
no,
that.
no,
It was,
no, no,
yeah.
you didn't. No, you didn't. But I did want to make that clear to people
Hmm.
out there that is not something that you should rely. You should have a prescription for whatever it is that you're taking.
As never take medicine that's not prescribed. And I consider
That's
if the doctor gives me a sample, it's prescribed,
right. It's
especially
a
if it's a
prescription.
new medication.
Yes.
When I started with Dupixent, I may or may not be starting on Nimluvio. I'm sure that'll be a sample to start to see about side effects and efficacy and whatnot before you jump in head first dealing with the insurance.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a great thing that they do that. But yeah, it's awful if you find something that works and then you can't get it anymore. So
Sure.
for that, and I advocate for myself hard with that too. I will call the insurance, I will write the letters or emails, dating myself. But people need to self-advocate as well. The physicians,
Absolutely.
again, is that, as I said, how, they only have so many hours in a day and they have a lot of patients and they have a lot of cases. So I do feel like, as frustrated as we can get as patients, we have to allow them some level and measure of grace. They're doing what they can. It's just,
Yes,
they do
exactly.
have limited resources, limited time. So that's where the responsibility needs to be on our shoulders. And we need to be willing to fight some of these battles, not the war. He's the doctor, he or she is the general. They're leading the brigade, but you have to be a soldier that can push forward on your own.
Right. Right. So, for someone newly diagnosed
Mm.
or is struggling right now, what practical advice would you give them about coping, advocating for themselves, and protecting their mental health?
Mm. So wait, they are or are not diagnosed. They have
Recently
the issue
diagnosed, newly
recently
diagnosed.
diagnosed. I would I would suggest that they ask their physician for additional resources. The dermatologist that I recently met with is, I think, kind of how you and I connected. He suggested a webpage called What Works, I think, about Prurigo Nodularis. And it
Sure.
could have led to me joining a Facebook group. And as Chotsky as some things on Facebook can be, there are some pretty beneficial groups about different um, conditions and issues in life. But I
Right.
would ask for resources that you could look into yourself.
So
The
what
internet
was
is our
the
friend. Um,
what was the site that you were
um,
referenced to?
I may have to get back with you on that. I think it's called What Works, but about Prurigo Nodularis.
Okay.
I
Well, when you
I want to
find that,
try to find it on my phone, but I'm afraid it'll disconnect
no,
this.
we don't want to
So,
disconnect this call.
so I'll give it to you. You can put it in show notes or
Yeah,
add it in
right.
something. I will get it
We'll
to
add
you
it.
though.
We'll add it into the comment section.
Right. And I think actually it was through that I saw something about Nimluvio, and that inspired me to maybe I'll look back at the Facebook groups again and started perusing that. And that may have been where you found me. Um, so I'd ask about resources. I would talk to your other visit. If you have just a primary, talk to them. They tend to have a little bit more time and they know the whole picture. Um, if you have a therapist, obviously discuss that with them. And if you don't, consider therapy, because this does take a significant toll and time of yours. And I think it's important to protect what you can, uh, even if you feel like you're in a great mental health space. And I hope more people are than not, but it's going to be chipped away at as you proceed with this and as you hit brick walls and as you have struggles, because you will. I don't think it's a very easy course for many people. So it, it's not a weakness if you reach out for help. It's
Right.
strength. It's showing it's not a handout, it's a hand up. Those are really true words though. It's
Sure.
when you need help, ask for it. And there's no shame in that. There's no weakness in that. Absolutely rely on the people that are there.
Certainly. Um, my my first experience when I was first diagnosed
Hmm.
with this, I went to the dermatologist and I said, I got one question for you. It's real simple. Is this going to kill me? Yeah, because I didn't know if I had
Yeah,
cancer or not, because you just don't know, these things, they creep up on you and then it's there and it's like you've had a monster that's just pounced on you. And
right.
so I would imagine, now I will admit, I was frightened by it at first until I
Mm,
found out what it was. And I imagine that there are a lot of people out there that when they first when they first start seeing symptoms of this, they get scared.
yeah,
And
probably. Yeah.
so I think we need to really get the word out there to people who have this or who are suspecting that they have this, that this condition is not fatal. It's
Right.
very
Oh, yeah.
uncomfortable, and it will cause a lot of problems, a lot of adjustments that you're going to have to make in life, but it's not going to kill you.
Right.
And
And I
that's
would interject, don't sit on it.
right.
Don't think, oh, it'll go away. Or obviously, we don't have to go to the doctor every time we get a hangnail, but all too often people want to be dismissive of themselves. They may have had, like myself, negative experiences just in general in the healthcare field, or they see it something that's being cost prohibitive. But if you have if you have some sores or however it presents on an individual, if it's there for more than 2 weeks, go to a doctor, see somebody. And there are limitless options these days with telehealth and community resources. It's not easy. You have to find them. Especially if money is an issue or time is an issue, but they are there for most people. And don't sit on it, because then it becomes a monster and you don't know how to deal with it, and you let it overtake your mental health and other areas of your life before you even seek a diagnosis. And it's like you feel like you failed before you've even had any victory. So I would encourage people, take care of yourself. Like, not that you're not taking care of it, seek help when you realize this is not just some bug bite. So this is not just a reaction to laundry detergent.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Um, Last question. Looking back over nearly a lifetime
Yeah.
with Prurigo Nodularis, what today gives you hope, and what does living with it truly mean to you at this point?
Well, the first answer is simple. Living with it for me is no different than, like you said, a lifetime. It, it's always had it. It's always been there. I've always had it. I feel like it's always going to be there. Even if as I have had recent successes in the last year with Dupixent, even as I hope to continue with potential new medications, I, I'm reluctant to use the word addiction, but I think it's very similar or chronic. You can get on top of it. You can have successful treatment, but I think it's always going to be there. And unfortunately, the treatment may have to be forever for some people. And that's what I struggle with. Um, but at the same time, like I mentioned, blood pressure or watching, whatever your chronic health conditions are, you just kind of deal with it. But I do wish that there was a way it just wasn't an issue anymore. It was healed, it was cured. And maybe I don't know enough about it. Maybe you as an adult might know more. I mean, is it curable? I don't know. Um, yeah, that I
We don't
just
we
deal
don't
with
know.
it. Yeah.
You know, the development of Dupixent and Nimlivio uh, have greatly increased the optimism
Hmm.
of, of getting a handle on this disease and diseases like it,
Yeah.
um, and hopefully finding a cure for it. Um, the good thing is that there are effective treatments that are being presented all the time. Uh,
Yeah. Looking
New
forward, it's like,
medications,
don't
new
give up.
therapies,
Yeah. I
right?
mean, just 5 years ago, I don't believe Dupixent was approved for prurigo. I
No,
think it was in the last 3 years, my allergist told me.
no,
But that is a drug that is getting every day something
right,
else. it's going to cure the common cold eventually.
Right.
But
So,
I don't understand the mechanisms in it, but science is always going to be evolving as well. I feel like now that the dermatological community and that research community has gained a little traction, gotten some legs in this and other comorbidity skin issues, or co-occurring, I should say, because it's not, you're not going to die from it. So, co-occurring, that they're anxious to research more and to get more alternatives, because not
right,
everyone's going to respond to something, or you will develop a tolerance to it, you will plateau, and there needs to be alternatives, just like insulin, just like blood pressure medicine, just like mood stabilizers. There's got to always be work on it. But if the derm community had no real resources, they could have diagnosed you 30 years ago. Maybe I could have gotten a diagnosis. Maybe some doctor actually thought that to themselves, but because there
right.
wasn't any option, didn't say it to me. I don't know. I would hope they would. Like, I hear a lot of people talk about getting the diagnosis after a biopsy. Well, nobody ever told me I could have I've had a million biopsies, not a million. I've literally had over 100.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
without exaggeration. Um, but I keep digressing. I do that. I'm sorry. Uh, but yeah, the derm community needs, I'm glad the changes I'm seeing. The doctors seem a little bit more compassionate. I think in general, the way medical school is approached is very, very different in the last 20 years, and we'll continue to see changes of compassion and empathy and whole body. So I think those are good things, and science doing with it for new conditions that there doesn't affect a lot of people outside of this, just random. It's very unfortunate. I lost my dad to a terminal illness of which there was little knowledge, no cure, no treatment. And that was 15 years ago. And now it is on the horizon, but only after they started getting a little bit of success did more money start coming in for research. And now it's not a death sentence for people.
And we've seen with biological medications like
Hmm.
Nimlib and Dupixent that they're finding that they're very effective against a
Yes.
lot of different conditions. And so I think the future is pretty bright
Yeah.
when it comes to Prurigo Nodularis and a lot of
Yeah.
other conditions
That's how
as
I
well.
feel. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons I have more confidence in continuing this journey, continuing to go down this road, is, well, I have actually seen success now. I've gotten that taste. And, so I want to continue. And again, you're like, I'm not going out trying to be beautiful and wear skimpy clothes and show off my body at 56 years old. So this is the point where I'm really doing it for me, just for my own peace of mind. The idea of being able to lay on my couch and look down at my feet and legs and not be sickened by myself, and not see colleagues or friends walking around and they just have this perfect skin. And I'm so envious of it. And I know that sounds really vain, but there is a lot of pain and discomfort, physical as well as emotional, as we've mentioned, that comes with that. And just that you don't want to look at yourself, that's awful. So the idea of being able to is very enticing to me.
Right, right. Well, Shannon, we're going to leave it here, and I wanted to thank you
Thank you. Thank you.
for doing this interview. I really appreciate it, and I hope that what we've gone over here today will help some people
I
who've got
absolutely.
this condition and conditions like it,
Yeah.
um, to help them to cope with the daily challenges that they see. Um, I
Yeah.
want
I feel like
to
chronic conditions they can be dealt with. They don't have to redefine your life.
Right,
It,
right.
right. Just recalibrate it a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about PN?
Um, No, I don't think. I mean, I have incredible curiosity about those that have been diagnosed as an adult and what that looked like. But I can, that's just for me to continue researching and ask my doctor and whatnot. And that's just for my own edification, just because that has not been my experience. So I struggled that I have very little to offer. You asked me some questions kind of along those lines. I have very, very little to offer when most people are getting diagnosed is when I'm in the acceptance part of it. So kind of like 5 stages of grief, the Kubler-Ross 5 stages.
Right.
And I think that's a kind of an applicable thing too.
Yeah,
And that kind of goes in where therapy is. You've got that
I think
shock and
the I think the stages of grief is something that everyone with any kind of a
yeah,
chronic condition uh,
yes.
ends up going through.
Yeah. Because it like as I said, it's not going to end your life. You said it's not going to end your life. I said it doesn't have to redefine it, but you do need to recalibrate. And part of that is a process of grief
Right.
and acceptance and questioning and doubt. And you do want to bargain with your higher power or even a doctor. Like, if you could just do this, then like, I'll stop drinking if you can make it go away. I'll stop smoking if you can make it go away.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. But
Well,
education, advocacy.
I heard somebody say once, and it certainly was true, that while this condition is not a death sentence,
Mm-mm.
it is a life sentence.
Yes.
So,
And the life you knew before it is gone.
right,
So by that, it's not a death sentence for your corporal body, that you will need to say goodbye to some of the ideas and maybe dreams that you had before, but hope is
sure,
on the horizon with treatments and research.
yeah,
And for those that want to take holistic measures, I applaud you, but just don't debunk the science because it's there to help us. It's really there to help us.
right, right. Well, for everyone out there who is watching, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions about prurigo nodularis or any other chronic illness, feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. All right, Shannon, you take
All
care,
right.
okay?
Bye
All right.
bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
For more information about Prurigo Nodularis, please visit the American Academy of Dermatology Association. Follow the link in the comment section.